This is Miss Misery. I know I have been on hiatus for a while, a long time actually. It started out with some personal stuff, deaths in the family, and then ex-boyfriend stuff, and so on and so forth. And then it just became this thing where I was like scared to death to come on here. And I had to break through that. And basically, I had to come to a conclusion where it was either, am I still going to do this or am I not? And I do want to do it. So here I am. This story, and no, it's not why my eyes are watering, but the makeup is why my eyes are watering. But anyways, this story is one that I have told a million times, and if I am a little affect or I don't seem like I'm as shook up as I should be, that's why. I mean, I literally had to tell this story so many times that it shocks me how plainly that I can say it. This is the story about when I lost my son. My son and I have always had a rocky relationship. He was born fetal distress due to the doctors giving me too much medication since birth. Well, we didn't think that it had affected him because they did a year-long assessment on his... I'm sorry, I'm constantly going to be wiping my face. On his developmental stuff and everything like that. And he was hitting milestones like that. I mean, I'll get into some of the crazy stuff that he would do when he was a little kid in another video. This one is strictly just about the day that I lost. Now, it was a Saturday, and I had allowed him to stay the night. I mean, he's 20 years old. Now you guys are thinking, you allowed a 20-year-old to go stay the night with his uncle? Yes, because 2 days before that, I had to have his stomach pumped because he had overdosed on Chlorocidin cough and cold, which was his drug of choice. He was addicted. Now, there's a difference between addiction and dependency. I'm not going to get into that. If you want to know, look it up. It's not hard. Google it. The thing is he was definitely addicted to this substance. Now, it's an over-the-counter medication for cough and colds and things like that. And I guess the kids started overtaking it and they noticed this kind of euphoria. And my son got into it, and he got into it really hardcore. And he just gotten out of prison. I'm not going to get into that in this video either. And it'd been about 2 months since he'd been released, and he was starting to get back into it. And my brother asked, well, can he stay the night at my house? I said, look, here's the rules. If he's awake, you're awake. If he's outside, you're outside. You need to treat this child, not this child, this young man, like he is an infant. because he cannot be left alone right now. If he's left to his own devices right now, he's going to go straight to Walmart. He's going to steal more medication and he's going to overdose again. And God knows what would happen if he did that, because he made some stupid remark the last time. He's like, I took 24 and I had to get my stomach pumped. I wonder what would happen if I took 48. And I'm just like, Jacob, you know, no, you're not going to take 48. So we were watching him very closely. I did end up allowing him to go to my brother's house and stay the night. They were not supposed to let him leave the house unless they were to walk him to my door, hand him off to either my husband or I at the time. They didn't do that. He walked in about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Saturday, September 24th, 2011. And it was the day he was getting his puppy, his little Yorkie that I got him. His little Yorkie named Steve. And him and I were not on best terms because of what he had done. And then we had also had an incident a week before that where he had called me the C word, and I took his phone away. I'm like, hey, look, I don't care how old you are. And I don't care if this phone is in your name. You call me that, I'm taking your phone, and so on and so forth. Well, I almost took the dog and did not get it. Well, the people came by that morning and I looked at the little dog. I gave him the rest of the money for it. I said, oh my God. So anyways, Jacob was home at this time, but he came in the house and went straight back to his bedroom. So when the puppy got there, I grabbed the puppy, I grabbed his phone, I went into his bedroom, and he was lying there, kind of like in the corner of his bed. He had a bunk bed. Him and his little brother slept in there. It had a full-size bed on the bottom and a twin on top, and it had metal. It was metal bars, And when I went in there, I looked at him. I'm like, I didn't see anything awry. There was nothing showing that he was in any kind of distress. And I'm like, here's your puppy. And he's like, oh my God, Steve, da 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 da, and he's going on and on and on. And I go, here's your phone back. And he goes, oh, thank you, Mom. And I looked at him, I go, I love you, Jacob. I love you so much. He's all, I love you too, Mom. And he gives me this great big hug. And the only thing that was weird was he was a little clammy. And I was like, that's strange. Well, after feeling the clamminess, he leaned back and I started to notice that he was acting weird. He was kind of doing like that, like his eyes were going in the back of his head. And for some reason, I didn't think dystonic reaction, which is something that happens when you take a medication and it's like an adverse reaction and your eyes go back into your head, and it's treatable though. And I didn't say that. I immediately said, you're having a seizure. And he shook it off like he was going to shake off a seizure. Oh, okay. And so he shook it off. No, I'm not. And it was because he knew that he had taken something. And I didn't at that point. But that was the only thing I could equate it to, because You know, for one, he came in the house with nobody. My sister-in-law and my brother did not bring him to the house. Found out later on that he had left at 10 o'clock in the morning from their house. I lived 2 houses down from my brother. So, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, they did not at all adhere to my rules for him staying the night. And I was upset about that, but I didn't find that out until later. Um, as soon as I screamed, "You're having a seizure," he said, "No, I'm not." About a second or two later, he started to seize. Now, at first, like, I knew he wasn't joking deep down, but for a split second, I thought, oh, he's making fun of me, you know? He wasn't. Um, he started to seize really bad, and I grabbed his phone, and this was in 2011, and phone calibration was not very great on touchscreens at that moment. So I was trying my best to get this phone to work. I'm trying to press 911 and it's like 199 245, and I'm freaking out. And then I thought, wait a minute. My youngest son has an old Nokia that has actual buttons. So I screamed for my son Christian, and he comes running into the room. Of course, his little sister carrying the puppy came in behind him, and I didn't want them to see this, but I was shook. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I was freaking out. When my son came in, I had scooted my oldest son down the bed a little bit and laced my fingers together underneath his neck so that he couldn't jar his neck and hurt himself, just in case he came through whatever he was going through at that moment. And also so he couldn't hit the metal on the bed. And so Christian came in and I said, "Call 911. Your brother's having a seizure." So like the most wonderful little boy ever, he calls 911 like a big boy, and he says, "My brother's having a seizure." And and I'm just like, "Oh, that's so sweet." He's trying to say these words that he can barely say, and it was so conflicting to me because I'm just like, that's so sweet, and then something next to me is happening that's so horrible. And I've gotten flack over the years for thinking that, it was just the sweetest thing how he said what he said and everything. But anyways, I finally was able to get the phone from my son because my oldest son had stopped seizing for a minute. Now, these seizures were violent. Like, he was coming up off the bed. I mean, it was really, really bad. And so I was on the phone with the lady, and she's like, "They're on their way, blah, 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 so on and so forth. They'll be there soon. Don't worry what's going on with him. Just make sure that he's nowhere where he can hit anything." All, no, I kind of, put a pillow in between him and the bed frame. They're all good. You're doing fine, you know. And I told my two little ones to take the puppy, go in the living room, and then after a minute, I he started seizing again, and I was just like, he's seizing again. Um, at that point, I yelled and told my two youngest children to go to my brother's house and let them know what's going on, and to keep an eye on them until my husband got home from work. So I'm there with my son. He's seizing, and then he would stop, but he was seizing more than he was calm.